I've transferred them from the pan, so you have a spatula and you'll pick them up. You'll put them in so it's nice and dry, and then just let it cool down. Now this is the fun part. And get this in tea parlor lingo. This would be called, an old-fashioned name for this would be a muffinaire. And people collect them like antiques, but this one isn't an antique. It's just a grocery store one you can get. Okay, this is another safety tip. I'm going to put the sugar. It calls for about a tablespoon. I like a nice coverage. And the safety tip is to do it in your baking dish. That way you don't have the sugar everywhere. You want a nice even coat of the sugar, because this is going to caramelize with the torch. I'll get a couple going. This is the fun part. My daughter Rachel bought me this for my birthday years ago, and I went brulee crazy. Even if I just had some pudding, I would put sugar and brulee it, I'd eat it, then I'd sugar it again and brulee again, all the way down. Put on a little weight, but anyway, so you turn on your torch and just, oopsie, I lost my flame. Just evenly move it around. You want to get a nice brown color. Okay, here we go. Keep it going. Nice caramelized color. Oh my gosh. I wish this was smell-o-vision or something. You could, it's just a wonderful thing. Okay, I'm going to sit down and get a better angle with the torch. You just work it until it's nice and caramelized or bruleed. It's fun saying that word. Oops. Poof. All right. Now I have just a plain glass plate. You can get these little doilies anywhere, and that's kind of a fun way of doing it. I think I want a little more color. All right. Perfect. I'm going to pick this little puppy up. There you go. Now, you can garnish with fresh fruit. I usually use raspberries, but today I have some beautiful blackberries. And you can just maybe place a couple on top and put some on the side. It's nice. Just go to the local fruit stand, see what's fresh and available. And there you go. There's a nice creme brulee. Now, the top will have a nice little tap. And I don't know if you can hear that. And you crunch through that little, and it is one of the best things you've ever tasted in your life. Oh yeah. This, you know, girls, if you're single and you want to catch yourself a man, this is the dessert to make. This is money. This will, I mean, you can just reel him in. You cook this, he takes a bite, you reel him in, it's a done deal. And then you just say, thank you, tea time. Today we're going to make scones. They say scone in Australia instead of scone. And actually in England and Scotland and Ireland it's scone, but in America it's scone. So if you're thinking she can't even say it, it's because I lived in Australia 20 years and we used to go to all the country race meetings, and the best scones I ever tasted in my life were from the Country Women Association. There's this group of country women that would make scones, and they'd sell them in the little kiosks and things, and they were so good. And I'd pick their brains. I'd say, you know, give me the recipe, and they had all these little tricks. And it wasn't until I moved back to America, like 20 years later, I found this recipe, and it tastes just like those country women made it. It's the best cream scone you've ever tasted. This recipe is just your regular, makes 12 scones. We usually double it. I would never recommend going any more than doubling a recipe, because sometimes the math doesn't work out. It's just trust me, it's better just to only double if you're going to do that. But it doubles quite nicely. You can sift it with a just an old-fashioned sifter. I just like to throw everything through a sieve. I'm putting together the dry first, and this is a pastry flour, but you can use all-purpose flour, and I'm just going to put it all in here. So there's 2 cups of flour. I'm going to put the sugar in next. It calls for castor sugar in Australia, and castor sugar is just an ultra-fine sugar. It's just, regular sugar will be fine, will work okay. You can actually get castor sugar in America. It's usually called baker's sugar or superfine or ultrafine or something. So that's all it is. It's nothing too mysterious. And I think one of the secrets to this is it actually calls for a lot. It's a tablespoon of baking powder. And usually in recipes it's a lot less. So I think this is one of the secrets, besides all the cream and butter. So there's a tablespoon of the baking powder, and get a double acting, get a good one. Whenever you're getting ingredients, like with my flour, I get flour that's made here in Oregon. I get all the freshest ingredients. That's like the secret to something tasting really good. I usually just do pinches, but with baking sometimes you want to be precise. It's 1/4 of a teaspoon, which is really just like a big pinch, but I'm just going to measure it. And I pretty much use kosher salt. I just like it. I like the way it tastes on your tongue. But you can use any kind of salt. That's the dry, and I'm just going to sift it in here. And if it's taking too long, you can move your hands around. Just don't skin your knuckles. It gives you a whole nother flavor. But you want it nice and airy and light. And this seriously just melts on your tongue. This scone. The first time I ever made it, a girlfriend of mine from Eastern Oregon stopped by, and I was getting a new scone recipe. I just discovered it, and I was going to teach it at the college. And I made her tea on the veranda, our front veranda, and she tasted it. She goes, "Couldn't you teach them a lesser scone? It's that delicious, like you don't want to." But I do share this recipe. Part of the wet will be this butter, and the secret to putting your butter in your scone is to have it really cold. If you let it get room temperature, it won't work as well, because it's just something about, just trust me on that one. And it's 1/3 cup, but we go a little bit more. I always go a little more generous with that, so I'm going to go about a tablespoon. If you get a cube of butter that has the little guide on it, it's easy. Or I weigh most things. That's a good way with baking, if you can get used to weighing.